Hello everyone. Let's start with Cladogenesis and Anagenesis. So in terms of evolution, an important question comes up: how exactly does one species become another? There is a question regarding speciation, about the pace and mechanism of speciation. And the question may be, does it happen through a gradual transformation of an entire population, or does it happen when one group splits off and becomes something new? So evolution can happen in two ways: cladogenesis and anagenesis, and both are fundamental to understand how the tree of life grows. So first mechanism, anagenesis, a straight path of evolution. So this refers to gradual, steady transformation of an entire species, entire population into a new form over time without any branching. So यहाँ पे जो keyword है वो ये है that anagenesis is a branchless speciation. So you can imagine it like a straight road where an old car is slowly upgraded part by part until it becomes a new model, but the old model no longer exists. It has been completely replaced. So the second important difference is that via anagenesis, the old the old version, it is completely replaced. In biological terms, anagenesis, it involves accumulation of small evolutionary changes within a single lineage. So that's how evolution happens, by accumulation of small changes here and there, and gradually with each species, each organism, these small changes they keep accumulating, and such changes by the way of natural selection and mutation both, this chain of event, it leads to emergence of a new species. So over time these changes become so significant क्योंकि जो छोटे छोटे changes हैं हर एक population में, like ये जो inheritance of acquired characteristic, लमार्क वाला एग्जाम्पल देख लेते हैं. सो चार जिराफ हैं और उनमें सिर्फ हाइट का माइनर डिफरेंस है. नाउ इनमें से ए बी सी डी, इनमें से दिस वन, ये इट गॉट थ्रू. नाउ differences minor हैं, they are also existing, but ये जो है it is this particular trait, it has been naturally selected because of its favorability. और ये favorability की वजह से this individual it got better mating chances. फिर reproduction की वजह से जो new offspring हैं उनके अंदर भी जो जो probable offsprings हैं they are of longer necks. फिर ये जो इंडिविजुअल है, ऐसा नहीं है कि ये एक ही इवेंट में सिंगल शॉट दे गॉट एलिमिनेटेड. ये भी है, ये भी रिप्रोड्यूस करेंगे अगेन. देन उनके जो वेरिएंट्स है वो ये है. फिर इनमें से भी कोई वेरिएंट है दैट माइट एमर्ज विद लॉन्गर नेक. तो इस तरह से ये जो छोटे छोटे जो चेंजेस है, स्मॉल चेंजेस हैं, ये विद टाइम, विद लीनिएज, मल्टीपल लीनिएजेस, विद मल्टीपल चेन्स ऑफ लीनिएजेस, ये धीरे धीरे एक्यूमुलेट होते जाते हैं. So these significant events at smaller level, they keep accumulating, and later on with time they become significant, and so significant that they lead to divergence of a species or even emergence of a new species. Then anagenesis is also called phyletic evolution or gradual evolution. Now key features: first, it is a branchless event, no splitting or no branching occurs. Only one lineage continues, transforming slowly. जो ये कार वाला एग्जाम्पल देखा है कि this old car, it will be gradually upgraded part by part until it becomes a new model. And then this old model no longer exists. It has been completely subsumed by, completely replaced by a new model. So this transforms slowly and completely. Then उसी का explanation यहाँ पे है. The ancestral species that disappears and it evolves into a new form, emergence of a new form. And these transitional forms, they are common and expected. Example here, the gradual evolution of early horse ancestor Eohippus into modern horses is often cited as a classical example of anagenesis. So over millions of years, the horse size, teeth, limbs, they change in response to shifting environment. Now, the same example in human evolution. So it was once believed that Homo erectus they gradually evolved into Homo sapiens through anagenesis. यानी ऐसा मानते थे कि Homo erectus they directly evolved slowly uh, by replacing the old model into the modern Homo sapiens. But right now, this model it has come under question because हम जानते हैं कि बहुत सारे जो सब स्पीशीज हैं एनाटॉमिकली मॉडर्न ह्यूमन स्पीशीज हैं वो भी सामने आई है. Now let's talk about cladogenesis. So this is a branching event, a branching prototype. So cladogenesis is on the other hand is about splitting. So here a single species give rise to two or more distinct species. So imagine a road that is suddenly forks into two parts. ये road है, it forks into two parts, and but both continue, दोनों रोड कंटिन्यू है बट इन डिफरेंट डायरेक्शन एंड बोथ डेवलप डिफरेंटली ओवर टाइम. और धीरे धीरे ये जो है पैरेलल या ब्रांचिंग इवेंट होता है आगे. So in cladogenesis, one population gets separated, often by geographical barriers like water divide, river divide, or some kind of geographical distance. And the isolated group it experiences different environmental pressures, genetic drift, or natural selection. In short, जो group separate हो जाता है, it experiences total different kinds of environmental condition, different kind of nature, different kind of selective pressures. और उसकी वजह से this isolation it helps this particular group into developing a newer species, a newer group. So over time, again, यहाँ पे evolution का process same है, that the differences और selection की वजह से the inheritance of characteristic they gradually accumulate until there comes a time then the two groups they can no longer interbreed, they have become separate species. So जो बेसिक मैकेनिज्म है इवोल्यूशन का वो तो सेम है कि इंडिविजुअल्स में माइनर जो चेंजेस हैं वो धीरे धीरे बाय नेचुरल सिलेक्शन, म्यूटेशंस, जेनेटिक रिकॉम्बिनेशन, जेनेटिक ड्रिफ्ट, सो जितने भी फैक्टर्स हैं उनके द्वारा इस जो स्मॉलर वेरिएशंस हैं दे कीप एक्यूमुलेटिंग. इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे ये इनसिग्निफिकेंट होते हैं बट ग्रेजुअली आफ्टर hundreds of lineages, these differences they keep accumulating until they become significant. और फिर उसके बाद with time hundreds of lineages हो जाएगी तब तक जो selective pressures हैं वो भी change हो जाते हैं क्योंकि nature भी जो environment भी है वो भी similar रहता नहीं है. आपको ice age के बारे में बताया, interglacial ages के बारे में बताया, and if you are not aware of it, तो the earth है it goes through glacial cycles. Glacial cycle में एक time आएगा ice age का, then it would be sandwiched by interglacial period, a warm period, then again a period of ice age. In short, cold condition interspersed with warmer condition, then again cold conditions. So इस तरह की जो environmental conditions हैं वो होती रहती है. फिर उसके अलावा बाकी आपको पता है कि नेचर इज हाईली अनप्रिडिक्टेबल थिंग कि कभी भी कुछ भी हो सकता है. टेक्टोनिक अपहीवल्स का भी हमें नहीं पता, लैंड स्प्लिट का भी हमें नहीं पता, आने वाले टाइम में क्लाइमेट चेंज हो गया, डिफरेंट एनवायरमेंटल कंडीशंस हो गया, सेलेक्टिव प्रेशर्स है वो कैसे हैं वो भी नहीं पता. सो जिस हंड्रेड्स ऑफ लीनेजेस की हम बात करें, हंड्रेड्स ऑफ या थाउजेंड्स ऑफ लीनेजेस, उस टाइम तक नेचर जो है सेलेक्टिव प्रेशर्स हैं वो भी चेंज हो जाते हैं और उस टाइम तक डिफरेंसेस हैं वो भी सिग्निफिकेंट हो जाते हैं. नाउ की फीचर्स ऑफ क्लेडोजेनेसिस. फर्स्ट, ब्रांचिंग और स्प्लिटिंग अकर्स, देन टू और मोर स्पीशीज को एग्जिस्ट. सो यहाँ पे जो एनाजेनेसिस है उससे डिफरेंसेस देख सकते हैं. वो एक ब्रांचेस इवेंट है, इट इज़ अ ब्रांचिंग इवेंट. देन वहाँ पे जो ओल्ड वर्जन है, ओल्ड स्पीशीज है, इट इज़ कम्प्लीटली रिप्लेस बाय अ न्यूअर स्पीशीज. और यहाँ पे टू और मोर स्पीशीज कैन को एग्जिस्ट. द ओरिजिनल स्पीशीज माइट सर्वाइव alongside the new species. Then biodiversity increase as a new species emerge. Now example, so Darwin's finches of Galapagos Island are classic example of cladogenesis. So a single ancestral species gave rise to many newer species and each one adapted to different types of food sources. Then in human evolution, the human lineage Homo sapiens, they split off from a common ancestor that shared with chimpanzee around 6 to 7 million years ago. Later यही group जो है it formed a hominin group. उसमें multiple species were coexisting such as Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo neanderthals, and उसके बाद भी डेनिसोवंस है, क्रोमैग्नन है, ग्रीवाल्डी है. सो ये एक क्लासिक एग्जांपल है क्लेडोजेनेसिस का. Now the key differences between cladogenesis and anagenesis. So in anagenesis, evolution is like a single unbroken thread that changes color slowly along its path. Whereas in cladogenesis, it's like a tree branching out in many different directions. Now the second difference, in anagenesis, species A slowly becomes species B, and with it, the parent species, it disappears. But in cladogenesis, species A gives rise to species B and C, and sometimes all three species continue to live together for some time. And it is obvious from this explanation that anagenesis tends to produce fewer species, that focusing on changes within a lineage, whereas cladogenesis, by contrast, it generates biological diversity by creating multiple species. Now, why are these concepts important for anthropology? These concepts are important for anthropology because we have been looking at this question of human evolution by our human ancestor. So, if evolution was mostly anagenetic, then human evolution would look like a straight line, a single straight unbroken line that started with the first hominin Australopithecus, then proceeding from Homo habilis to Homo erectus and then Homo sapiens. But if it was cladogenetic, then human evolution was like a branching bush with multiple hominin species, some of which went extinct while others survived. Modern research based on fossil and genetics, it supports a branching model, cladogenesis, and fossil discoveries, they also show that many hominin species coexisted. जितने भी आपको नाम बताएं, that like Homo neanderthals, they coexisted with Homo sapiens, with anatomically modern Homo sapiens, with some subspecies or some species of Homo erectus along with Denisovans. So ये एक जो event है, जो fossil discoveries है and the observation we have come across so far, it supports the branching model. Thus, understanding cladogenesis and anagenesis, they help anthropologists to reconstruct the real complexity of our evolutionary history, revealing that it was not a simple march from primitive to advanced, but a rich tapestry of evolutionary experiments, successes, and dead ends. Now let's proceed on to punctuated equilibrium. So, under punctuated equilibrium, first let's have a look at its literal meaning. Punctuation, जैसा आप जानते हैं, they are like minor stops, minor breaks, stops, breaks, pauses, minor shifts. So in evolutionary terms, पहले ये मानते थे कि evolution is an unbroken series of accumulation of changes. It's the common belief was that it is a gradual process, और जितने भी changes होंगे, accumulation होगा, evolution होगा, it will be in a slower process. But with the further discovery in molecular genetics, it became clear that there is some anomaly, कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, कुछ माइनर डिफरेंसेस हैं विद दिस व्यू कि इवोल्यूशन हो रहा है और काफ़ी टाइम तक इवोल्यूशन इट प्रोसीड स्लोली, बट सम टाइम दे आर पंक्चुएशंस, सम कॉमा, सम कॉलन्स, जो और उस इवेंट में द इवोल्यूशन इट हैपन्स इन वेरी रैपिड पेस, देन अगेन a long, unbroken, and gradual change. So this is the basic idea of punctuated equilibrium. Let's start with the chapter. So before the 1970s, the dominant view of evolution was slow, steady, and gradual. So this view was largely based on Charles Darwin's idea, and the evolution was imagined as a continuous and gentle process where a species slowly accumulated small changes over millions of years, a long, unbroken change going with a slower pace, and then this leads to gradual uh, transformation into newer species. However, when paleontologists carefully studied the fossil records, they found a very different story, an anomaly. So instead of slow, gradual change, species often appear quite suddenly, remain relatively unchanged for a long period, a state called stasis, and then disappear or change rapidly. So this thing, long period stasis, then a smaller punctuation of rapid growth, then again a long unbroken period of slow and gradual transformation. So the proposal by Stephen J. Gould and Niles Eldredge. So in 1972, two American paleontologists, Stephen J. Gould and Niles Eldredge, they proposed the theory of punctuated equilibrium. And this theory suggested that evolution does not always occur slowly or gradually. Instead, species often remain relatively unchanged for a long period, and significant evolutionary changes are concentrated into a brief and rapid events. Yes, in these punctuating events. Then they published their ideas into a famous paper titled Punctuated Equilibria, an alternative to phyletic gradualism. So the term punctuated equilibrium, it beautifully captures the idea. Long period of stability, equilibrium are interrupted by short, intense bursts of evolutionary change. Now the main concepts of punctuated equilibrium. First, most species undergo little evolutionary change for most of their geological history. So this period is known as evolutionary stasis, which means that once a species appears in the fossil record, it often stays pretty much the same without noticeable transformation. यानी long time के लिए जो species हैं, it remains in a stable condition, a stable state known as stasis. Then second concept, when evolutionary change happen, it does happen, it is rapid and usually associated with the splitting of lineage into distinct species via cladogenesis, जो अभी हमने पढ़ा है. यानी जो second उनका proposal ये है that whenever there are evolutionary changes, those will be rapid, not slow, and they are usually associated with splitting of a lineage via cladogenesis. So this rapid change is typically occur in small isolated population where genetic drift, founder effect, and strong selection pressure can operate more powerfully. So this here is the third proposal, that these rapid changes they do occur in smaller population. स्मॉलर पॉपुलेशन, क्योंकि स्मॉलर पॉपुलेशन में सेलेक्टिव प्रेशर्स जो होते हैं दे आर वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग. लार्जर पॉपुलेशन में सेलेक्टिव प्रेशर्स जो होते हैं वो डाइल्यूट हो जाते हैं, वो उतना सिग्निफिकेंट नहीं होता जितना स्मॉलर पॉपुलेशन है, क्योंकि स्मॉलर पॉपुलेशन में फिर जो इट्स मैटर ऑफ लाइफ एंड डेथ, या तो पूरी की पूरी पॉपुलेशन सर्वाइव करेगी या पूरी की पूरी एक्सटिंक्ट हो जाएगी. और इसीलिए जो जो द फाइट फॉर सर्वाइवल है, इट इज़ इंटेंस इन अ स्मॉलर पॉपुलेशन. और व्हेन फाइट फॉर सर्वाइवल इज इंटेंस, तो आप समझ सकते हैं कि इवोल्यूशन या इवोल्यूशनरी चेंजेस होंगे वो भी रैपिड होंगे, और फिर जो जेनेटिक ड्रिफ्ट है या फाउंडर इफेक्ट है वो भी काफ़ी प्रोनाउंस होंगे. Thus, rather than seeing evolution as a smooth or continuous process, punctuated equilibrium, it present it as a series of stable plateaus interrupted by sudden waterfalls of change. A long period of stasis interrupted by punctuations of rapid changes, then again followed by long period of stasis. Stasis, and this punctuated equilibrium. Now the key terms, Stasis, it refers to long period when species remain relatively unchanged. Punctuation refers to relatively short bursts of rapid change, short times of rapid change. Cladogenesis is a splitting of lineage into two or more separate species that leads to biodiversity, जो अभी हमने देखा. Founder effect. It happens when small population become isolated from a large population and starts a new population. As the name suggests, founder effect means a pioneering effort, a new discovery. So here, that small population, it when splitting from its parent population with time due to rapid evolutionary changes and selective pressure, it starts a new population. And finally, allopatric speciation, and it is formation of a new species in population that are geographically isolated from one another. So allopatric is similar to cladogenesis, but it is more about how species diverge geographically. It's similar to the process of cladogenesis, but the focus here is more about geographical isolation. Now, the difference between punctuated equilibrium versus phyletic gradualism. So, this concept is challenged the older model, which were known as phyletic gradualism, which meant that evolution was continuous and incremental. So, under phyletic gradualism, we would expect to find many transitional forms in fossil records, which in another term it means step by step changes. Step by step changes होंगे from ancestral to descendant population. तो transitional fossils भी होना चाहिए. But under punctuated equilibrium, these transitional forms are rare because the periods of rapid change are very short and they happen usually in small or peripheral population that are unlikely to be fossilized. So ये एक observation है जो fossil record में मिला, उसकी वजह से this punctuated this concept it gain into richer vocabulary. So again, last, the apparent gaps in transitional fossil is not really gap at all, but natural result of how evolution works according to punctuated equilibrium. So ये gaps की वजह से ही पता चला. बाकी अभी तक जो phyletic gradualism की वजह से लग रहा था that we should have found some transitional fossils. Species बहुत धीरे धीरे अगर with millions of years में अगर evolve हो रही है तो ये तो होगा ना thousands of years. कुछ कुछ milestone के बाद कुछ major changes जो हैं वो accumulate होके कुछ transitional species वो भी तो उनके fossils भी तो दिखने चाहिए but वो नहीं थे. तो उसकी वजह से जो gap है actually it is the work of punctuated equilibrium. Now the evidence that support punctuated equilibrium. First, fossil records they show that many species appear suddenly without clear transitional state ancestor. For example, trilobites, ammonites, and many mammalian species they show patterns of long stasis followed by abrupt changes. Second, the studies of island biogeography provide real-world support. So islands they often give rise to new species because of their position, because of their relative geographical isolation. And geographical isolation है island जो है they can support only a smaller population. Smaller population है तो selective pressures जो हैं वो भी strong होंगे, profound होंगे, prominent होंगे. So selective pressures अगर higher है, population small है, then founder effect and ecological pressures all causes rapid changes in the population, and all of these ideas and their subsequent discoveries, fossil discoveries, they are consistent with punctuation equilibrium. And finally, genetic studies they show that small population can accumulate changes rapidly due to strong genetic drift and selection. And now small population में अगर genetic changes हो रहे हैं that too rapidly, then this thing needs a clear observation. क्योंकि phyletic gradualism के अकॉर्डिंग चेंजेस जो हैं वो लार्ज पॉपुलेशन के अंदर स्लोली एक्यूमुलेट होने चाहिए, बट स्मॉलर पॉपुलेशन के अंदर चेंजेस एक्यूमुलेट हो रहे हैं. Then it means that Smaller population are hit by the strong selective pressures, and such studies they provide a molecular basis for this theory. Now, finally, criticisms and refinements. So, despite its powerful insight, it faces criticism. So, some evolutionary biologists they argue that it may overemphasize rapid changes and underplay the importance of gradual evolution. And other believes that the both models, gradual and punctuated, they occur in nature depending on the context. And हो सकता है because most of these rapid changes they are concentrated in small population that too that are usually dispersed by isolation, some water divide, some mountain divide, geographical isolation. Then Gould and Eldredge they themselves clarified later that punctuated equilibrium does not reject Darwinian evolution but rather refines our understanding of pace and pattern. And yes, it does not totally refute the idea of phyletic gradualism because the whole idea is concentrated around these certain patterns such as smaller population, uh, geographical isolation, founder effect, strong selective pressure, rapid events. And now, today, most scientists accept a blended view, a mixed view, where phyletic gradualism and punctuated equilibrium both are seen as two ends of a spectrum of evolutionary change. Now, importance of this mechanism in anthropology. So, for anthropology is crucial in understanding human evolution. So, fossil evidence of hominin evolution shows pattern of relative stability punctuated by rapid changes, such as sudden appearance of Homo erectus or relative quick transition from archaic Homo sapiens into modern humans. So, ये भी एक बहुत beneficial or crucial insight है. Then it also emphasizes the role of small and isolated population, which is the key in the evolution of new hominin species, and not only in hominin species. Punctuated equilibrium से हमें पता चला है कि the real evolution, the rapid evolutionary events, they are happening in smaller population. So the ultimate key of evolution or ultimate key of emergence of new species, newer version, it lies in smaller population. Then events like migration of early humans out of Africa could have created conditions ideal for punctuated changes. So finally, moreover, this equilibrium it helps anthropologists understand why human evolution and evolution in general often appears jerky rather than smooth in fossil records. Jerky here it means the same stasis followed by rapid event then stasis. Now in the next video we are going to talk about selection, the engine of evolution. Thank you very much and subscribe the channel.